Welcome back to Wrestling Talk. Alexis Carrillo here, and I am so glad to be doing one of these shows again this week on the Wrestling Talk YouTube channel. And as a matter of fact, we are just a few hours away from the final stop on the road to WrestleMania. We're just a few hours away from the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view taking place in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where the very first topic I'm going to delve into today is the WWE Championship Elimination Chamber match, where this man, the almighty Bobby Lashley, puts his title on the line against 5 other men in one of the most demonic structures in WWE history. And this isn't a question. This isn't some throwaway sentence that I'm just going to put out there. I demand Bobby Lashley walk out of that Elimination Chamber match and the pay-per-view itself still WWE Champion. Why? Well, first and foremost, despite rumors and reports stating that WWE and Vince McMahon are hell-bent on having a title versus title match at the show of shows, the current planned match for that title versus title bout doesn't need it. It does not need it. You've already announced that match. It's already set in stone. You don't need to get to that point where you have to have champion versus champion, and by doing that, you make every other match, every other big match on the WrestleMania card mean that much less. But WWE is still trying to create new stars, trying to create bona fide stars that can sell tickets and hype up fans and make them believe and tune into Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown each and every week because they are legit. And WWE, if you are watching this and you give Bobby Lashley a 3-week title reign, a superstar that you call the Almighty, a superstar that in the past 2 years, give or take a few months, has not been made to look weak at any point in his entire run. If you give him a 3-week title reign just to bolster up a Reigns versus Lesnar match that does not need title versus title, then the WWE does not know what the hell they're doing. They don't. Because, you're trying to build up these stars. You're trying to build up Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley and all these. And notice how I only mentioned those two because at this point, those are the only 2 superstars that are new to the main event scene that are actually, in my mind and in many fans out their mind, actually legit and can put up a decent fight to Roman Reigns and Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar, 2 already made stars. All right? So with that said, why not focus on building them up and give Bobby Lashley something that's been missing? And that is build up his pedigree, build up his resume. Why not have him string up a few WrestleManias where he's always in a World Championship match? He did that last year when he defeated Drew McIntyre in that WWE Championship match. Why not have him put over, Riddle at WrestleMania? That'd be a much bigger match, a much bigger bout at WrestleMania than to just have the almighty Bobby Lashley lose his title after 3 weeks. Yes, in a chamber match that is supposed to defend the champion because, protect the champion rather, because, he's facing 5 other men inside that steel structure. But either way, then what? Lashley loses. Lesnar wins, which would be the only other logical move for WWE to make. And then guess what? Just like with Big E and just like with Kofi Kingston, Brock Lesnar's going to bypass the automatic rematch and forget all about Bobby Lashley, and that's going to make the almighty Bobby Lashley look like a fool. And then Lashley's going to go to face off against some random guy in a random match in a show of shows at WrestleMania. Up to the point that, and this is just a throwaway idea, the actual one-on-one rematch, Lashley versus Lesnar at SummerSlam, that's where WWE should be looking towards. Lashley beats Lesnar at SummerSlam later in the year, definitively, and gains his respect. That's how you make him a household name. That's how you make the fans believe in him. But if you have him drop the WWE Championship in a few hours, just for Lesnar, who, yeah, he's been entertaining. Don't get me wrong, I've said it here on the show countless times. He's been as entertaining as possible. But Lesnar doesn't need it. He didn't need the Rumble win to get his match against Reigns. He doesn't need the Chamber win to further that story. That story is set. That match is set. You do not need to further that. They already had that match or were supposed to have that match at day one. Circumstances prevented it. Build on that story to WrestleMania. I mean, and if if the rumors are true that you have other big, groundbreaking ideas set for WrestleMania, then what the hell are you doing with title versus title? So on that match, Lashley has to retain. That's a statement from my part. And yeah, I'm going to be extremely pissed if he doesn't. I will. And I'm sure a lot of fans out there are going to feel the exact same way. Doesn't mean I'm not gonna watch the show or the shows leading up to WrestleMania. Doesn't mean I'm gonna give up on WWE. I've been a lifelong fan. That's not gonna change. All I'm saying is you can make better decisions, and the best decision right now is to have Bobby Lashley retain. And as far as the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view goes, you have Reigns defending against Goldberg. Don't really care much for Goldberg. This is a match that was about to happen 2 years ago at WrestleMania. Couldn't happen because of the COVID pandemic, and Roman Reigns rightfully so, had to take care of himself. We've all known his health issues in the past, so no issues right there. But all I'm saying is this better be a squash. This better be Reigns just beating the living crap out of Goldberg and retaining. There's no other idea, no other way to get rid of Goldberg. I don't want to see him on my TV anymore. He can't go in the ring anymore. That's it. Reigns retains. End of story. That's it. And as far as the other Elimination Chamber match at this pay-per-view, who's going to walk out of that chamber with a Raw Women's Championship match at WrestleMania? And it's between two women. As simple as that. I'm not going to go through the 6. I'm not. It'd be mute at this point. Moot at this point. It would. You have two choices, and that's Bianca Belaire, the EST of WWE, or the newly reformed Little Miss Bliss. The 5 Feet of Fury is back, and Alexa Bliss seems to be back on the right track to get back to where she used to be, which was the goddess of WWE. So, which match does WWE want? Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss? I mean, I'm not sure that guarantees you a great match at WrestleMania. Alexa Bliss hasn't performed inside the ring in a few months, actually. Promos will be killer, no problem. But there will be run of the mill. And then you have Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belaire. That's a match that pretty much guarantees entertainment value and putting Bianca Belaire over at the show of shows at WrestleMania after you pretty much lowballed her, in storyline form of course, at SummerSlam last year. So if it were up to me, I'd give it to Bianca Belair and then have Alexa Bliss go up against someone else at WrestleMania. But those are my main Elimination Chamber match. Elimination Chamber pay-per-view or premium live event, what they're calling them right now. Predictions for tomorrow night's show in a few hours. We'll see what happens. And as far as you're concerned, do you agree with my predictions? Do you have different choices for each of these matches? And do you overall care about this premium live event that WWE offers in Saudi Arabia? And forgot to mention, Becky Lynch retains against Lita. It's going to be a great match. It's going to be fantastic to see Lita back in the ring, but big time Bex has to retain. That's got to be the end game for WWE. So leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comment section below. And currently there are rumors or reports stating that Steve Austin is currently in the plans for WrestleMania. And his rumored opponent right now is Kevin Owens. That's a match that's been penciled in. As of right now, it hasn't been made official. It might not be made official anytime soon or at all. It all depends, honestly, on Stone Cold Steve Austin. But they're kind of building up to it in a sort of way because Kevin Owens has pretty much expressed his disdain for Texas, which is the state where WrestleMania is being held at this year. Stone Cold Steve Austin is the main spokesperson, to put it that way, for this year's WrestleMania. So it's a no-brainer, right? It's a no-brainer. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens, one-on-one at WrestleMania. Stunner versus Stone Cold Stunner. The story writes itself, right? The issue here is Stone Cold Steve Austin has been retired and hasn't had in-ring competition in almost 19 years at this point. His final match was against The Rock, a loss against The Rock at WrestleMania 19 in Seattle, Washington. A great contest, a great story told by two legends that are currently on my Mount Rushmore of WWE. So the question we all have to ask ourselves right now is Stone Cold Steve Austin willing to throw that legendary moment, that legendary curtain call away for a match against, yes, a very respected, a very talented, a great human being by all accounts in Kevin Owens? Is Stone Cold Steve Austin willing to throw that all away? Because if you ask me, I would not have Stone Cold. I want to see Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestle. Of course I do. You don't think I want to see Stone Cold come back for one more match? And it's nothing against Kevin Owens. It's really nothing, but, Kevin Owens, The Rock, you were in your prime against The Rock. You're coming back after 19 years of ring rust. And we already saw Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Kane and The Undertaker have that baffling contest at Crown Jewel a few years ago. You had Goldberg versus Taker. Those matches were just embarrassing for all of these legends that do not need to be out there still performing when if this is a sport, let the younger guys go up. Let the younger guys come up and put on matches that you have no right being in. And with all due respect, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens, yes, it's going to sell tickets. Yes, it's going to pack AT&T Stadium both nights because of the excitement, because of the level of euphoria that the fans are going to have that Stone Cold Steve Austin is back and he's going to have one more match, but it's not worth it. It is not worth it. It's not. So if Stone Cold Steve Austin, if you're watching this, do not throw that legendary curtain call against Rock away just for one last match. Yes, in Dallas, Texas. Yes, WrestleMania. Yes, WWE and Vince McMahon. They're trying to convince you, and they're throwing money at you, and they're throwing all these other things at you, and they already have a story planned out in case you do. But my recommendation right now would be, yes, have Stone Cold Steve Austin return to WWE TV, but do it in a different way. I don't know. Have Stone Cold Steve Austin back Damian Priest. Have Stone Cold Steve Austin back Austin Theory. Have Stone Cold Steve Austin back a young up-and-comer to defend Texas, name and all of that. That story that you're already building up to. And have Kevin Owens go up against that one guy. And have Stone Cold Steve Austin in his corner. That's just as viable. It's not as interesting. It won't sell tickets quite as much. But it will keep Stone Cold Steve Austin's legacy intact. Which at this point, for me, is the most important thing that they should be doing. So with that said, you know my thoughts. Stone Cold Steve Austin, stay in retirement. Come back. Manage or be in somebody else's corner and put them over at WrestleMania. But what do you think? Do you think Stone Cold Steve Austin should come back for one more match in Dallas, Texas, in front of over 100,000 fans at WrestleMania? Or do you agree with me in the fact that he doesn't really need it? It's going to be a hit or miss in terms of in-ring action, and it might come out looking out for the worst for him. So leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comment section below. And with WrestleMania season looming along, we mentioned a few weeks ago, and there have been reports a few months ago, that Cody Rhodes had been working without a contract in AEW, the company he helped found, the company he was an EVP. He is or was an EVP for All Elite Wrestling for the past 3 years, and his contract came up at the end of 2021, and everybody assumed that it would get picked up. Why wouldn't it? Cody Rhodes helped found that company. Cody Rhodes pretty much defines AEW at this point. I know a lot of fans, a lot of hardcore All Elite Wrestling fans do not want to hear that, but that's pretty much true. Cody Rhodes and AEW go hand in hand, much like Jeff Jarrett and Impact Wrestling go hand in hand. That's never going to change. That's always going to be set in stone. But earlier this week, Cody Rhodes, Brandy Rhodes, AEW, Tony Khan, they all sent out statements that shocked the wrestling world, because those statements informed wrestling fans that AEW and Cody Rhodes and the Rhodes family were not working together anymore. They were unable to come to a brand new deal, and Tony Khan was unable or unwilling, whichever way you want to take it, to pick up their contracts and keep them home in AEW, and now they have gone their separate ways, and Cody and Brandy Rhodes have been future endeavored by AEW. I know that's not the narrative. The narrative everybody's saying is they parted ways mutually. But the fact of the matter is AEW fired Cody and Brandy Rhodes. If that is true, because at the end of the day, when I first saw this earlier in the week, I thought it was a work. I thought there was no way possible, no chance in hell that this could happen. I mean, it's Cody Rhodes and AEW. They go hand in hand. I just said it. But AEW has been bolstering up its roster with CM Punk, with Bryan Danielson, with Adam Cole, and a bunch of other, Keith Lee, of course, and a bunch of other guys that they have little to no use for because they don't have enough TV time, or meaningful TV time, rather. So now, rumors are circulating that Vince McMahon is willing to welcome Cody Rhodes back to WrestleMania with open arms. As a matter of fact, there are reports out there saying that if Cody Rhodes were to return, and he could return as soon as in a few hours, as tomorrow night, an Elimination Chamber pay-per-view or premium live events, excuse me, Vince. If he were to return that soon, there's already a match set in stone for him at WrestleMania. And again, I don't know if this is a work or a shoot, but at this point, I'm not going to believe anything until I see Cody Rhodes appear somewhere with a contract and it's reported that he is signed somewhere else. Because, I mean, at this point, it's going to be shocking to see Cody Rhodes back in AEW after all the rumors that are circulating right now at this point. And it's going to be even more shocking to see Cody Rhodes go back to WWE in a prime spot after what he did for the past 3, 4, 5 years in the Indies and Ring of Honor and AEW. And you have a lot of wrestling fans out there saying that Cody Rhodes was stupid and dumb by throwing all of that away, throwing creative control that he reportedly lost over the past few years. All this freedom, all his friends in AEW, everything he built up, he threw all that away to come back to what many wrestling fans out there call jail. But hey, WWE is the big time. WWE is where Cody Rhodes started his in-ring career. So anything is possible. But if you ask me, I would have had Cody Rhodes stay in AEW for the rest of his career because that's where he belongs. That's where he belongs. And in WWE, Cody Rhodes is not going to be as big of a star or as big of a deal as he was in AEW. As simple as that. So what do you think? I think he's going to head back to AEW. Like I said, I'm going to be extremely shocked if he makes an appearance with WWE anytime soon. Good shocked, don't get me wrong. That's going to be fantastically entertaining to watch, but shocked nonetheless. But I think he's going to either work with AEW or Impact or New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's not going to find his way back to WWE despite all the rumors and the reports. So with that said, what do you think Cody Rhodes should do? Do you think he should look for other options, try to build other companies up, or do you think it's time Cody Rhodes came back to WWE, came back to the place that formed him, and to the place that honored and keeps and continues to honor his father each and every year? So with that said, leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions in the comment section below. And I promise this is going to be, hopefully, one of the last segments on this show anytime soon where I'm talking about X guy or Y girl leaving a company or going to a different company or staying in a different company, whatever. But social media has its ways, and it appears that former Impact World Champion Josh Alexander is done with the company. Apparently, his contract came up with Impact Wrestling. It wasn't picked back up. It wasn't renewed by Scott D'Amore. Bad move. Just right off the bat, bad move. Because you made him the world champion. You built him up going into Bound for Glory. And then you built all this story up for him to redeem himself and get that title back. And I've said it here before. The money match for Impact Wrestling right now, in my view, in my opinion, the match that they should be building up to is current Impact World Champion Moose versus Josh Alexander. One-on-one, an actual match for the World Championship. That's the match that they should be building up to. Apparently, that's not going to be possible because his contract ran out, and now his visa ran out, which was apparently tied to that contract. And I get it, contract negotiations are tough, they're hard. So I don't fault them for not reaching a new agreement. But I have to go back to the point that I've made time and time again. Impact Wrestling will never be able to keep stars under contracts if they still stick to Access TV. It's not a big enough stage. And because it's not a big enough stage, Anthem, Impact Wrestling's parent company, is not unable, but more unwilling to give him more of a budget. Because if their ceiling in terms of viewership is 200,000 viewers a week, compared to other programs out there, compared to their competition, which is WWE and AEW, that's laughable, that's embarrassing. And compared to their Spike TV days, that just makes me want to cry. It really does. So Josh Alexander, I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to be picked up by WWE or AEW anytime soon. And that's going to get his visa, his work visa, renewed back up just as fast. Josh Alexander has nothing to worry about. As a matter of fact, if he I prefer he show up in WWE because, like I said, AEW has been signing up all these guys, all this new talent that just gets lost in the shuffle. They don't know what to do with them. And Josh Alexander, he's just a technical masterpiece of an in-ring performer. And can you imagine a straight-up one-on-one wrestling match between Josh Alexander and Chad Gable, who, by the way, has been killing it on Monday Night Raw as of late. He's been showing a lot of personality, which goes along with his wrestling. Match made in heaven right there. So yeah, Impact Wrestling is losing stars, and they're losing one of their biggest stars in Josh Alexander. If that is true, again, they might be working us. They might come up with a new deal later on. Who knows? But yeah, it sucks to see Josh Alexander, the walking weapon, leave Impact Wrestling. It really does. So yeah, leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions as far as where he's going to end up, as far as what he's going to do for his next career move. Leave them in the comment section below. And finally, to end on a high note, we got to talk about a guy who is currently claiming that the Fed, in this case WWE, was his developmental. And I know I'm about to say something that is highly controversial and something that a lot of wrestling fans out there are not going to like, because it's going to feel like I'm putting them down. And I'm not. It's just that, I have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of attention that I can destine to wrestling. So I would rather watch WWE, Impact, AEW, NXT, all the big major companies out there with the little time that I have, rather than devote that valuable time to watching independent wrestling promotions. Now, I'm not saying that they suck. Absolutely not. They put on, as far as I can tell, they put on great shows. But in my mind, it's kind of meaningless what they do out there, because it's the indies. It's a wrestling circuit. For the most part, it's one and done. You don't follow through. You just go there for a good time. What else can I say? So with that said, I'm not trying to devalue his win. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to put him over. Because of what I've seen from Matt Cardona. All the hype that the fans have been giving him for his indie run, for being one of the biggest heels in professional wrestling that isn't on a major stage. Props to Matt Cardona. Congrats on his recent nuptials on New Year's Day. I think New Year's Eve or New Year's Day to the gorgeous, just stunning Chelsea Green. So congrats on that. But from what I've seen, from what I've read, from what I've noticed on social media, Matt Cardona is quite the heel, quite a hated heel on the independent circuit, and he's transferred that into almost every wrestling promotion at this point, up until Impact just a few weeks ago, when he pretty much, started his heel turn by defeating Jordan Grace for the Digital Media Championship toy title. But now, Matt Cardona, the former Long Island IC, the former Zack Ryder, the former Woo, you know it, The former Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, is now your NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. He is now the owner of those 10 pounds of gold. The historic 10 pounds of gold. Cardona finally did it. He is finally a world champion. All his ups, all his downs, he deserves it. He's been working for it, and the NWA with Billy Corgan has given him just that. And for that, I could not be, more happy for him. He can go in the ring. And up until I saw him on Impact Wrestling, I did not know how big he was. I mean, in WWE, because of the size difference with other larger-than-life superstars that they have over there, he kind of seemed like a cruiserweight to me. He comes over to Impact Wrestling, he's more than just a heavyweight. He can go in that ring. And he had his opportunity at the Impact World Championship at Hard to Kill. Wasn't able to capitalize on it. He was still a babyface. Now he's turning into a heel, which is kind of tricky because you already have a heel champion. So Cardona is not getting anywhere near current Impact World Champion Moose anytime soon. But I gotta say, I can't wait until we see Matt Cardona on Impact on Access TV, wearing the 10 pounds of gold, being as heel as he can be. That's entertaining stuff. And they are building up to a match against Nick Aldis, who in my mind, ever since Billy Corgan took over the NWA and bought the NWA, Nick Aldis has been the face and will continue to be the face of that company. Nick Aldis has been the guy to put that company on his back. And what better way for that big babyface to get over in Nick Aldis than to fight off against a hated heel in Matt Cardona. So right now, I think the NWA, the little that they are doing, it's working, in my point of view. But overall, I'm just happy. Matt Cardona is your new NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. Let's see where he takes it. Let's see what happens. And, you can just go to the NWA Wrestling YouTube channel. They've got a show that recaps the NWA week after week after week. I strongly recommend you check it out. It's a great product. Like I said, I don't have much time to on it. But I used to watch the 10 Pounds of Gold series for NWA a few years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, when they started it. Was very interested in that because of the documentary style. So I'd give them a chance. NWA, Major League Wrestling, Ring of Honor Wrestling, with their recent announcements of the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame. They're also killing it. So again, Matt Cardona, congratulations. Let's see what you do with that world title reign. Let's see you bring that edge, that heelish edge, to Impact very, very soon. So with that said, that's been it for today's show. That's been it for Wrestling Talk. We've got a taped edition of SmackDown tonight. Please, no spoilers on the comment section. A lot of fans don't really like spoilers. They don't check them out. They might want to tune into Fox and just, believe that it is the first time that they are seeing all these results. But they did have to tape the show in advance because Saturday morning, if you're on the East and West Coast, if you're on the East Coast, it starts at 11 or 12 p.m. And then on the West Coast, 8 or 9 a.m. a.m. in the morning. So yeah, they had to tape them in advance. Other than that, I've been Alexis Carrillo. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy some great wrestling. Let's see how the WrestleMania card starts to look after the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event. So with that said, have a great rest of your weekend. See you next time.